I have another story I'd like to share with you. It's not the typical tale in Tony's short stories, but it holds a special significance for my father. At first, I didn't quite understand why he saved this article, but as I delved into the biography of Jimmy Doolittle, I stumbled upon a surprising connection. Mr. Doolittle, it turns out, was a participant in the 1927 National Air Races. It's these unexpected connections that make this story so intriguing. It's funny how things seem to fall into place or are gently guided by some unknown influence. Coincidences and my father's fascination with the 1927 National Air Races led me to this story. Either way, it's all good with me, so let's proceed with the story. For those interested, I've compiled a comprehensive summary of the race results and a complete list of all the pilots who participated, located at the bottom of this post, along with a downloadable PDF of the original article. A wealth of information will give you a thorough understanding of this historical event. Enjoy the story.
Popular Aviation, November 1927. The National Air Races, the event of the year. On September 21st at 2:17 p.m., the watchers at Felts Fields, Spokane, Washington, were rewarded for the hours of waiting by seeing N.C. Lippiatt in a Travelair cross the finish line as the winner of the Class A division in the race from San Francisco. From that time until long after 5 o'clock, the Air Derby entrants from both San Francisco and New York arrived at intervals. Of the 15 starters from New York in Class A for planes of greater than 100 horsepower, the first four to place were C.W. Holman, St. Paul, Laird; E.E. Below, Chicago, Laird; N.B. Mamer, Spokane, Boole; J.P. Wood, Wausau, Wisconsin, Waco. Of the 25 starters in Class B that left New York, the first four to place were C.W. Myers, Detroit, Waco; J.S. Charles, Richmond, Eagle Rock; E. Detmers, Tarrytown, Travel Air; L. Miller, Des Moines, Eagle Rock. Four of the five entries in Class A from San Francisco finished in the following order: N.C. Lippiatt, Travel Air; Lee Schoenherr, International; Vance Breese; Jack Fry, Fokker. The first three arrivals from San Francisco in Class B were C. L. Langdon, International; D. C. Warren, Travel Air; Lee Willie, Eagle Rock. The flyers from San Francisco reported good flying all the way, with the exception of the Columbia Valley, which was rather foggy. However, the New York racers had many experiences that made the race a hard one. Holman lost a tire taking off at Butte and had to land at Spokane on one wheel. Detmers finished third in spite of much trouble, flying a straight compass course at nearly 8,000 feet elevation. At one time his magneto became water-soaked, and he had to make a forced landing and waste nearly half an hour in repairs. He lost another 15 minutes repairing a gasoline feed line. At Missoula, he blew a tire in landing. The non-stop flight from New York to Spokane was not finished. The two entrants were compelled to land and thus disqualify themselves. In the Aviation Town and Country Club event for speed and efficiency, held on the 23rd, James Ray of Willow Grove, Pennsylvania, in a Pitcairn Sesquiplane, raced to first place with an average speed of 138.39 miles per hour, with E. Ballo of Chicago winning second with 132.36 miles per hour in his Laird commercial. The same two then proceeded to win the Seattle Chamber of Commerce trophy races in the same order. Lieutenant W.C. Cornelius of Selfridge Field, Michigan, flying in the first event for military planes, won the pursuit race with an average speed of 155.41 miles per hour. Lieutenant I.A. Woodring was second with 155.04 miles per hour for the 60-mile race around the 6-mile course. Lieutenant L.C. Mallory was third with an average speed of 153.66 miles per hour. In the speed and efficiency race for commercial ships for the trophy offered by the Detroit News, F.N. Hawks of Houston, Texas, won first place in his Ryan Brougham with an average speed of 104.83 miles per hour. Jack Fry, Los Angeles, in a Fokker Universal, was second with 100.06 miles per hour, and John H. Miller, Milwaukee, third in a Hamilton at 96.50 miles per hour. The following day in the speed contest for the Liberty Engine Builders Trophy, two specially motored Curtiss ships won the first two places with ease. Lieutenant H.A. Johnson of Wright Field won first with 170.15 miles per hour, with Lieutenant G.A. McHenry of Fort Crockett, Texas, second. The race for commercial planes was won by Eugene Detmers of Tarrytown, New York, in a Travel Air, who averaged 102.54 miles per hour for 80 miles. Paul Richter, Jr. of Los Angeles won second in his Eagle Rock, and C.W. Myers of Troy, Ohio, in a Waco was third. The Army's giant tri-motored Fokker from Bowling Field, Washington, piloted by Lieutenant W.H. Beaton of Langley Field, won the Packard Motor Company Trophy Race for capacity planes over a distance of 60 miles. The speed average was 115.19 miles per hour. Lieutenant W.H. Doolittle of Selfridge Field came in second in the Douglas Transport with an average of 100.34 miles per hour, while Lieutenant T.K. Koenig of Crissy Field was third in a Douglas with an average of 81.28 miles per hour. E.B. Heath of Chicago won two races without competition in his Midget Heath Parasol, owing to the withdrawal of Jack Irwin of Sacramento, California. Immediately at the close of the races at Spokane, the field of over 65 planes left for Portland, Oregon, for the additional races that were to be held at that city as a dedication of the new Swan Island Airport. Speed Holman was the first airman to arrive, making the trip from Spokane in order to look the route of the race over before making the attempt the following day. On September 27th, the military planes arrived in Portland, and the inhabitants were treated to formation and stunt flying by the crack flyers of the Army and National Guard. In the afternoon, the racers in both Class A and B began to arrive, Holman winning first place by 27 seconds. E. Bilal was second and Nick Mamer third, with Lippiat and Schoenherr coming in fourth and fifth. Terrific rains in both Seattle and Portland led to the postponement of the Class B race. A temporary decision to postpone the Class A race left several of the entrants out of it, and they retired from the field without being notified later that the Class A race would be held. Defying adverse weather conditions, Portland's Air Derby was carried out on September 30th and witnessed by thousands of spectators who waited for the flyers for hours in a drenching rain on Swan Island Aviation Field. The first to cross the finish line in the Class B events, Spokane to Portland race, was Leslie C. Miller of Des Moines, Iowa, in his Eagle Rock biplane. Close behind Miller came the winner of second place, C.W. Myers of Detroit, flying a Waco biplane. Others of the 13 contestants continued to arrive during the afternoon. The crowd at all times was intensely interested in the speedy field program, which was run of in nice shape despite the heavy rain. At one time, there were 65 machines lined up along the field, and each the best of its type. The stunt contest between Lieutenant Doolittle of the Army and Lieutenant Sanderson of the Marine Corps proved most popular, as they both turned loose everything they had in the pursuit plane race. While the race was won by Lieutenant Jeter flying a Navy Boeing, the big performance of the race was staged by Doolittle, who pressed Jeter all the way and showed his rudder to the other two Navy contestants, both piloting planes of superior power. Doolittle was piloting an Army Curtiss with a horsepower of 435 as compared with the 512 horsepower of the Navy planes. Theoretically, fourth place was the best the stunt flyer could expect, but theory was not traveling as a passenger with the determined and misnamed Mr. Doolittle. He made up for his lack of power by skillful handling. He flew close to the ground along the river every foot of the 35-mile race, about 500 feet lower than the other pilots. He banked at steep angles on the turns. The net results was that he came in on the heels of his faster rival, with an average speed of 140.93 miles an hour. Lieutenant Jeter averaged 146.96 miles an hour for the course. Another Army flyer, Lieutenant Cornelius, made a great race against Lieutenant Regan of the Navy, but the faster plane won third with an average speed of 140.41. Cornelius was fourth with an average of 136.16. Lieutenant Woodring came in fifth, and Lieutenant Commander Bogan of the Navy sixth. Despite continuous downpour, both the Army and Navy stunt flyers entertained the huge crowd, and it was difficult for the judges to pick out the winner, both Sanderson and Doolittle's work being practically on a par. However, Doolittle was given first place on account of his entering all events of the day. In the 10-lap speed race for commercial airplanes, J.P. Wood of Wausau, Wisconsin, flying a white Waco, won with an average time of 111.3 miles an hour. M.B. Nick Mamer of Spokane, flying a Bull Airster, was second, averaging 100 miles an hour. The race for observation planes, a strictly military event, brought out a dozen Army, Navy, and Marine Corps biplanes, evenly divided between de Havillands and Douglas O-2s. The 10-lap race was won by Lieutenant Taylor of the Army in a Douglas. A de Havilland, piloted by Lieutenant Beverly of the Army, annexed second, and two Douglases, with Lieutenants Burgess and Grant, both Army, got third and fourth. Taylor's average for the distance was 106.92 miles an hour. Only 3 planes were entered in the small commercial AX-5 race, which was won by C.W. Myers Detroit in a Waco 10 biplane. Paul E. Richter Jr., Los Angeles, flying his Eagle Rock biplane, took second. Tex Rankin, third entrant, dropped out before the completion of the race when he saw that his low-powered Waco was unable to keep up the pace. Myers made the 5 laps in 13 minutes 26.27 seconds for an average of 83.87 miles an hour. Richter made the course in 13 minutes and 40.63 seconds, an average of 82.45 miles an hour. Prizes were $100 and $50.